But now someone with a sharp set of eyes has noticed perhaps a mistruth in the Oprah interview. Here it is.
She has a blanket that sits across her knees for warmth, and it was chilly. And she was like, Meghan, come on, and put it over my knees as well.
Was the move about getting away from the UK press, because the press is, is everywhere, or was the move because you weren't getting enough support from the firm?
Imagine discovering that the most powerful woman in media now privately regrets the single interview that defined her career, and that what she learned behind the scenes has been haunting her ever since. Think Oprah Winfrey, the queen of exclusive sit-downs, the woman whose ability to read people like open books made her the most trusted interviewer in the world. Now imagine that she privately admitted she made the biggest mistake of her broadcasting life, yet never uttered it on stage, in interviews, or even on social media. It came out quietly, behind closed doors, in a single heavy sentence about Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Sussex. I should have never trusted her.
Very first outing with the Queen, it happened right after her wedding to Prince Harry, and it was obviously extremely important and a significant occasion because it was her first outing with...
And what happened next? That whisper didn't stay private. It detonated into a Hollywood shockwave that nobody could have predicted, a storm that continues to ripple across the media landscape even today. Tonight, we're diving into the secrets Oprah has been holding for nearly 3 years and exposing the effects that are now shaking Meghan's world in ways the public has yet to fully grasp. For almost 3 years, Oprah maintained complete silence about Meghan. No red carpet comments, no interviews, not even casual insider gossip. That silence was deafening, especially considering the context. Oprah had welcomed Meghan into her Montecito garden.
Do this for my family. This is not a surprise to anybody. It's really sad that it's got to this point, but I've got to do something for my own mental health, for my wife's, and for Archie's as well, because I could see where...
Given her a massive global platform and allowed her to speak without limits. No time pressure, no aggressive questioning, no editorial pushback. Meghan cried, she made shocking claims. She reshaped her narrative in front of millions worldwide. And Oprah let it happen. At the time, the world called it historic, a cultural moment, a landmark interview, a conversation that forever changed the perception of celebrity, media, and royalty. But behind that polished exterior, cracks were forming. Insiders noticed immediately. Even in the early buzz, whispers began circulating. Oprah felt something was off. And now, with new revelations surfacing around July 25th, the story is finally coming into focus. Why she began creating distance, and why those initial cracks have blown wide open.
She told a story later in her Oprah Winfrey interview in 2021 where she talked about the moment that the Queen was more like a grandma to her because she saw that Meghan may have been cold and put a blanket over her legs as well. And it was it's a small detail and it's a smallish story, but it had significance because it showed the relationship that Meghan had with the Queen.
Insiders claim that Oprah's doubts started almost immediately after filming Wrapped. She had invited Meghan and Harry to share their truth, but what she witnessed off-camera shocked her far more than anyone expected. A former Harpo assistant revealed that just days after the broadcast aired, Oprah confided to her inner circle, "This wasn't journalism, this was PR. I handed them the mic and they ran with it." Soon, fact-checkers started highlighting inconsistencies. Palace aides quietly leaked documents that complicated the narrative. Public opinion shifted back and forth, but Oprah stayed silent. Her silence wasn't random. She doesn't express regret publicly without a serious reason. Insiders say that reason began forming the moment the cameras stopped rolling. It might seem simple. Oprah regrets a risky interview and moves on, but that's far from the full story. What comes next hit her personally, and what she allegedly discovered behind the scenes could completely reshape how the public sees that entire interview forever. Most viewers didn't notice subtle shifts in Oprah's on-camera demeanor, the small hesitations, the longer-than-usual pauses. What looked like reflection, insiders now claim, was doubt creeping in real time. And it all traces back to a single scene that appeared harmless to millions watching at home. Meghan's chickens, the rustic coupe, the simple wire fencing, the sign reading, Archie's chickens, freshly painted just days before filming. On camera, it looked perfect. Behind the scenes, Oprah immediately sensed something was off, almost staged. A former CBS editor revealed that Oprah watched the final cut 2 days before airing. First viewing, silence. Second viewing.
Want him to be a prince or a princess, not knowing what the gender would be, which would be different from protocol, and that he wasn't going to receive security.
What?
Doubt. She reportedly murmured to a producer, "This won't age well." And here's the twist. It wasn't the tearful confessions, the royal drama, or shocking allegations that made her uneasy. It was the chicken coop scene. Oprah instantly understood the setup's purpose, to make Meghan and Harry appear relatable, warm, and down to earth. But when she discovered the entire coop had been installed only a week prior, the fence refreshed, the coop repainted, the illusion suddenly felt calculated, not transparency, control. She allegedly confided that realization to her inner circle, marking the first real crack in her confidence. And it didn't stop there. After filming, as the crew packed up and lights dimmed, Meghan reportedly approached a staff member privately, not to say thank you, but to request access to the final edit. "Just make sure I get a look at the final edit. Oprah will understand." The assistant relayed the message to Harpo's executive producer, who informed Oprah. Her reaction was immediate and firm. "Absolutely not. This is my platform, not Buckingham's, not Meghan's. Not even presidents or global leaders have ever asked for editorial control, but the requests kept coming." Later that evening, an intermediary followed up on Meghan's behalf, asking that the final framing align with her truth. Insiders say that phrase irritated Oprah more than any public criticism ever could. For decades, Oprah built her reputation on authenticity, raw conversations that cut straight through PR spin. And now, a once-in-a-lifetime interview was being treated like a carefully controlled media project. Trust began fading fast. She quietly started creating distance from Meghan. Then came another blow from someone she trusted deeply.
What has been noticed now from that clip is you can actually see from sort of a more of a bird's eye view the Queen with the blanket on her legs in the car on that day. And it's a little difficult to make out very clearly, but it does look like the Queen only put the blanket on her own lap. And again, it seems like a small detail, but it does speak to the relationship.
Days after the interview aired, with social media exploding, Oprah received a text from her close friend Gayle King. "You weren't the only one. It worked. Just wait." At first, Oprah assumed Gayle meant network executives or producers, but Gayle clarified. Meghan had pitched her the exact same concept, almost word for word, a documentary-style, 3-part redemption story chronicling Meghan's journey through motherhood, philanthropy, and life after royal duties. The revelation stunned Oprah. "I thought I was helping her tell her story, but she was building her brand," she reportedly told her inner circle. From that moment, regret became personal. Not just a professional misstep, but a betrayal from someone she believed she understood. And if you think that's the end of it, it's not. The final blow came from a completely unexpected source, someone inside Meghan's own team. An unnamed stylist, who worked closely with Meghan during the final wardrobe fitting for the Oprah interview, stepped forward with details that were quiet, but deeply damaging. You wouldn't believe it. But this wasn't about chasing fame, publicity, or a big payday. No book deal, no interviews, not even a hint of a social media reveal. The stylist at the centre of this story reportedly asked to remain anonymous, and yet what she shared with Vanity Fair allegedly shook Oprah Winfrey to her core in ways nobody could have anticipated. According to the stylist, Meghan appeared warm, approachable, and charming whenever the cameras were rolling, creating a natural, seemingly authentic energy. But once the glam team packed up and the holding area emptied, insiders claim her demeanour shifted almost instantly, revealing a calculated, almost strategic persona behind the polished exterior. The stylist allegedly revealed that Meghan spoke about the interview like it had been carefully orchestrated. "Oprah gives credibility. I give the story," she reportedly said. And then came the detail that allegedly hit Oprah hardest. Meghan supposedly laughed, lightly but with clear intention.
I was really ashamed to say it at the time, and ashamed to have to admit it to Harry especially, because I know how much loss he's suffered. But I knew that if I didn't say it, that I would do it. And I just didn't want to be alive anymore.
About how easy it was to control the mood during filming. All I had to do was pause and look sad. Oprah would fill the silence. The stylist reportedly recalled her saying, "For Oprah, whose entire career has been built on creating safe spaces for honesty, raw emotion, and authentic storytelling, this revelation reportedly cut far deeper than any public criticism ever could." But the story didn't stop there. Sources say that even before cameras started rolling, someone close to Prince Harry had attempted to warn Oprah that things might not be what they seemed. Roughly 3 weeks prior to filming, Oprah allegedly received a discreet, private message. Not from gossip columns, not from palace insiders, but from a long-time, behind-the-scenes confidant within Harry's inner circle, someone known for staying almost entirely out of the public eye. The note was brief, polite, and deeply unsettling. "Please tread carefully. Meghan's truth is not the truth. You deserve to know this before you film." At the time, Oprah reportedly dismissed it. She had prepared extensively, done her homework, and wasn't about to cancel what would become one of the most watched interviews of the decade over a vague warning. But after hearing the stylist's account and reflecting on Gayle King's messages, insiders claim Oprah privately admitted to her closest team that she had overlooked warning signs she shouldn't have ignored. "I should have asked more questions. I didn't want to take them down, but that's exactly what I enabled," she allegedly confided. That moment reportedly marked the shift from professional regret to something heavier, disillusionment, and the situation escalated further when yet another revelation allegedly reached her, sealing her decision to distance herself entirely from Meghan and Harry. According to insiders, after the interview aired, Meghan's team began quietly exploring opportunities for another major tell-all on a different platform, a fresh round of revelations, another headline-grabbing media moment. Here's the detail that reportedly stung Oprah the most. The pitch reportedly included the phrase that she wasn't enough. That single sentence allegedly left Oprah feeling used, strategically outmaneuvered in a way she had never experienced. She realized she had not been approached as a trusted journalist, but as a launchpad, a tool to build momentum for the next chapter of Meghan's public image. Sources say that at exactly 6 p.m. one evening, Oprah reportedly picked up the phone, not to call Meghan, not to call Harry, but to speak with her longtime executive producer. Her voice, insiders claim, was calm, but carried unmistakable firmness. "I want it on the record. No more Meghan, no more Harry. We're done." When asked why, her reportedly blunt response was clear. "I opened my platform in good faith. What they brought wasn't transparency, it was a performance." From that moment forward, everything changed, not just for Oprah, but for Meghan. The fallout didn't arrive as dramatic headlines or viral statements. Instead, it came as a quiet but powerful shift in Hollywood's ecosystem. Invitations allegedly stopped appearing in Meghan's inbox. PR teams who had previously ensured her influence became unreachable. Producers who once praised her energy and vision reportedly began avoiding her team altogether. One insider at a major streaming platform reportedly summarized it bluntly. "If Oprah's out, we're out. It's not worth the risk." Hollywood, once eager to celebrate Meghan as a symbol of modern royalty, reportedly began pulling back, not with scandal, but with deliberate indifference. Because when Oprah signals a loss of trust, the industry takes notice, and Hollywood has a long memory. The real crack in Meghan's carefully curated image allegedly happened weeks later at a high-profile charity gala, the type of event where reputations can be built or broken in an instant. Meghan reportedly expected the usual warm welcome, confidently moving through VIP areas, but what she encountered instead allegedly caught her off guard. 3 A-list actresses, reportedly former acquaintances, allegedly turned her away, whispering to assistants, "Tell her I'm unavailable for photos tonight." The moment insiders claim hit her hardest was at her assigned table. Meghan reportedly noticed an empty chair next to her, one reserved for Viola Davis, who insiders say had quietly requested to be moved after learning of the seating plan. According to sources, Meghan reportedly understood the message immediately. Behind-the-scenes whispers had evolved into open conversations. And those conversations had hardened into a reputation that insiders say wasn't easy to shake. And this wasn't just one uncomfortable evening. It allegedly marked the start of a more significant unraveling, a subtle but undeniable shift in Hollywood perception. Meghan reportedly tried multiple avenues to regain control: quiet outreach to mutual friends, carefully worded messages via publicists, indirect attempts to reconnect with Oprah's circle, but responses were allegedly cold or non-existent. According to a producer close to Oprah, one final message was passed through a mutual contact, short, direct, and impossible to misinterpret. Trust, once broken, doesn't get airtime. Sources say that sentence reportedly landed harder than any tabloid story or late-night joke ever could. For Meghan, the damage wasn't in public criticism, she had faced that before, but in being cut off from the network and relationships she believed were foundational to her influence. She reportedly learned the hard way that Hollywood relationships aren't just about headlines or talent, they're about trust, alliances, and perception. Once those alliances crack, the fall can feel sudden, sharp, and brutal. Insiders say Meghan began leaning heavily on Prince Harry and her inner circle to regroup. But even within her professional teams, tension reportedly grew, with meetings focused less on new opportunities and more on repairing spiraling perceptions. Meanwhile, Oprah Winfrey maintained her silence, and that silence, insiders say, continued to speak volumes. In Hollywood, the real power isn't always the glitz, the awards, or the social media clout. It's influence, and nobody carries influence quite like Oprah Winfrey. People notice who she supports, yes, but they notice even more sharply who she distances herself from, according to multiple insiders in the entertainment world. When Oprah steps back, it sends a subtle but unmistakable message. Those in the industry read between the lines, they feel the pull of her absence, and nobody wants to be on the wrong side of that kind of authority. The effect is quiet, almost invisible to the casual observer, yet inside the industry, it's seismic. And then, as if that wasn't enough, another complication emerged, one that wasn't loud, flashy, or tabloid-ready, but quietly insidious. Opportunities that had once seemed guaranteed began slowing down or disappearing entirely. Meetings that were previously confirmed reportedly got postponed without explanation. Deals that had been moving forward stalled in the negotiation phases. Public enthusiasm for Meghan, which had seemed consistent and warm, suddenly cooled. On the surface, nothing seemed dramatic enough to make headlines, but insiders report that a pattern was forming, a subtle and undeniable shift. For Meghan Markle, sources say the frustration reportedly grew because, from her perspective, she had done exactly what modern media rewards. She had told her story, built her brand, and generated massive attention. What she allegedly failed to anticipate was just how quickly perception could pivot when powerful figures felt misled, uncomfortable, or manipulated. Hollywood thrives on reinvention, insiders note, but it also fears unpredictability. And uncertainty can quickly turn admiration into caution or even avoidance. One insider shared that Meghan reportedly expressed her disappointment privately, saying, "I thought people wanted honesty. I gave them honesty." But the reality, as those close to the industry saw it, was far more complex. Powerful figures weren't just evaluating her story, they were evaluating how the story was framed, controlled, and presented. That distinction, though subtle, insiders claim, changed everything. By this point, what had started as a single interview or a single fallout had escalated into a much broader reputation shift, one that spread quietly through private conversations, direct messages, and behind-the-scenes meetings. The network of influence in Hollywood moves fast, and once the narrative starts circulating, stopping it becomes nearly impossible. What Meghan allegedly didn't realize at the time was that an even bigger challenge was forming, one that would test not just her public image, but her entire strategy moving forward. The fallout from Oprah's quiet, decisive withdrawal reportedly rippled far beyond personal disappointment. Sources indicate it reshaped how industry insiders, executives, producers, and PR teams viewed her. What had once looked like an unstoppable trajectory From royal life to media powerhouse, from podcast deals to Montecito influence, was suddenly slowing down, almost imperceptibly at first, but with growing impact over time. And according to multiple insiders, this shift wasn't driven by scandal, controversy, or dramatic headlines. Instead, it was a far more insidious force: irrelevance. Public relations firms that had once competed fiercely to represent Meghan allegedly began reconsidering their involvement. Studios that had quietly shown interest reportedly stopped scheduling meetings. Streaming platforms that had anticipated another major Meghan project allegedly placed proposals on indefinite hold. The message, insiders say, was clear. When Oprah Winfrey, one of the most trusted and influential figures in media, withdraws support, the entire ecosystem pays attention. Hollywood doesn't simply follow trends, it follows power, and trust had shifted. For Meghan, the impact went deeper than most could see. She had weathered criticism before: negative headlines, online commentary, speculation from royal watchers. But insiders claim this was different. This wasn't loud or public. It wasn't something she could respond to directly. It was quiet, systemic rejection. Emails went unanswered, meetings were postponed without explanation, and once promising projects simply disappeared. Even some previously vocal supporters reportedly became more cautious, wary of association with someone now quietly described as difficult, highly strategic, or overly controlling of media narratives. Meanwhile, sources say Meghan tried multiple strategies to stabilize the situation. She allegedly reached out through mutual contacts, pitched new projects, sent carefully worded messages via publicists, and even publicly praised Oprah in attempts to rebuild alignment. But insiders claim the responses were consistently cold or non-existent. The distance, they say, was deliberate, and it sent a message louder than any headline. Trust had been broken, and once broken in Hollywood, rebuilding it is often slow, painstaking, or impossible. What many observers missed, according to insiders, was that this wasn't just about Meghan herself. It reflected the unwritten rules of Hollywood. Losing alignment with one of the most trusted gatekeepers in media, they say, carries consequences far more powerful than any tabloid story. Oprah's silence functioned as a verdict, signalling to the industry that her confidence in Meghan's narrative and approach had shifted. And in entertainment circles, that type of subtle judgment is often far more consequential than public criticism. Because when someone as influential as Oprah is perceived to have said, "I should have never trusted her," insiders report that everyone pays attention. They watch, they measure, and they remember. Meghan Markle, once positioned as a symbol of modern royalty, reinvention, and bold authenticity, wasn't facing exile or scandal in the traditional sense. She was facing something far more potent: fading influence. And in Hollywood, influence is everything. Careers, deals, public perception, and future opportunities all hinge on it. So, as Meghan allegedly confronted this new reality, insiders claim one truth became increasingly evident. In a world built on relationships, perception, and trust, a single broken connection can quietly, but completely, close doors that once seemed permanently open. And for someone whose life had been lived at the intersection of celebrity, royalty, and media, that type of shift carries consequences that ripple across every aspect of career and personal brand. If you've been watching closely, you can start to see how quietly powerful figures in Hollywood can shape the path of someone's career without a single headline. When influence shifts, everything else changes. And Meghan Markle's story, insiders say, offers a stark lesson in how delicate alignment with media power can be, and how quickly a single misstep, real or perceived, can alter even the brightest trajectory. If this breakdown gave you a clearer picture of how influence and trust work behind the scenes, share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to stay on top of more insider revelations, hit subscribe and make sure you don't miss the next deep dive. It's going to be a lot more than just headlines.